Not only will all five Penn State wrestlers competing at the NWCA All-Star Classic win, they will perform above expectations.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. My name is Seyko. I am your host of the show, and help me welcome him back. The voice of Penn State Wrestling also has a morning talk show every weekday on Sports Radio 98.7, the Fox in-state college, and that is Jeff Byers. We are previewing the NWCA All-Star Classic. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, we're going through all of the Penn State wrestler matchups one by one. No Greg Kerkvliet, which we will talk to conclude this podcast. But Jeff, we're going to go in the order of Carter Starocci, Levi Haines, Beau Bartlett, Shayne Van Ness, and Tyler Kasak. So let's start with the one that is most likely going to be the NCAA preview for this point, the NCAA championship preview at 184 pounds. Parker Kisen and Carter Starocci. This is 1 versus 2 to start off the wrestling season, and it could be the match to finish the wrestling season. This is the one that I'm most eager for. I'm sure everybody else is too. And it's going to be so close. Both wrestlers are 100%, and both of them reigning NCAA champions at their respective weight classes. Now Carter bumping up to Kisen's. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better matchup here.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it all the more intriguing is it is a new weight class for Carter Starocci, and he's going in there against the returning champion at that weight. And obviously Carter has had a truly remarkable career to this point and has a chance to, do something that is unprecedented and in all likelihood will not ever have an opportunity to be matched again. So, yeah, I think that is the marquee matchup with this event. And, it's one of those things where I think Penn State fans are probably largely taking it for granted that Carter just wins because that is what Carter does. But I will tell you, Kisen is a really, really good wrestler, has a really good feel for the sport. I think this is a really intriguing matchup. And I think for both of these guys, they're going to learn something that will help them throughout the rest of this season. And, if they do meet again, which I am anticipating in Philadelphia at the end of the year, regardless of how this match goes, that one could be an entirely different story.
Is there maybe a comparable opponent that Carter has faced in the past that could prepare him for the like? I don't think Carter Starocci is matchup-less. Like there isn't a wrestler that is going to overwhelm him because they're really good at this one area, because Carter is good at all areas, great at all areas of wrestling. But maybe is there another all-around wrestler that you could say, okay, hey, look at this film study because this is the kind of comparable matchup that Carter has faced in the past when wrestling Parker Kisen in the present?
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody that quite...
Okay, so this even makes it more intriguing.
Yeah, I think Kisen is a better athlete than maybe some give him credit for. So I kind of think of like a Mikey Labriola, but I just think Kisen's game, though, is wearing people down. Like, I mean, he stays in good position. He drives forward and he goes hard. And that's largely Carter's game. I mean, they don't have similar styles, but I think they have similar objectives when they're out on the mat in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. And I think both really don't get too concerned about who's on the other side of the mat. They're really both more focused on, hey, this is what I need to do. I'm trying to dominate. I'm trying to figure out how to make my game better. So to me, that's what kind of makes this an intriguing matchup is both of these guys, I think, approach the sport very similarly in terms of what they're trying to get out of it.
I'm anticipating a low scoring bout here. I'm thinking maybe 4-3, 5-4. Whoever makes that one mistake is ultimately going to lose this match. I think Carter Starocci actually wins because as we have discussed before, Carter's 100%. He might even be healthier than ever going into this matchup here against Kisen. It is going to be razor thin. Jeff, for you, what is the difference for either wrestler? If you're whoever you're anticipating to win, what is the difference here in a victory versus a loss?
Well, so I think the advantage that Starocci has, at least in my mind going in, is with his top game. I just think Carter is one of the really elite top wrestlers now in all of the sport. And that's not to say he's not elite, in terms of his bottom wrestling. And certainly he is elite in terms of his takedown ability as well. But, to me, I guess the biggest question is if Carter does get on top here of Kisen, can Kisen, who's very good on bottom, but can he avoid riding time point against Starocci? I think that's one of the things I'm really watching for in this bout because, really Carter's top ability is what allowed him to ultimately, in my mind, win the national title last year, basically on one leg. And so, I think on their feet, I give the slight advantage to Carter, but I mean, to me, it's a very slight advantage there. I think where Carter can maybe separate is with his ability on top, but when they're on the mat.
Carter Starocci versus Parker Kisen isn't the only interesting matchup here. It's called the All-Star Classic for a reason, and the weight class that Starocci vacated at 174 pounds, now occupied by fellow Penn State teammate Levi Haines. He is the number 2 wrestler going up against a replacement. It is not Rocco Welsh, who Starocci actually faced in the 174-pound championship just a season ago. No, Cade DeVos is taking over South Dakota State. He was 5th a season ago, so this is still a headline type of matchup here. And what I am most eager to see, Jeff, and you will know this better than just about anybody else aside from the coaching staff, is how Haynes has adjusted to not one but two moves up of a weight class, going from 157 to 174. And from the looks of it, he's adjusted pretty well, defeating Keegan O'Toole on the international circuit over in freestyle. And I would argue that Haynes is a better folk style wrestler than he is a freestyle wrestler here. So the odds are in Haynes' favor, but what have you seen that gives you the confidence that, Haynes is not going to miss a beat and honestly might be better suited for this weight class?
Yeah, I mean, I think when like the great wrestlers are just great wrestlers. It doesn't matter where you put them; they just figure it out. And Levi just has that competitive drive and the passion for the sport, and obviously a tremendous skill set. I think he's filled in very nicely. I mean, I think he knew pretty early on in the offseason that this was likely his plan. 157 was. He did a great job, obviously, with it last year, but it was a pull. And I think with Mitchell Messenbrake at 165, Levi just kind of pretty early on decided, 174 is where I need to get to. And I think with his frame, he's filled it out very nicely. He's worked on it, and I think he's gained the weight the right way. And I don't think, strength is never going to be the issue for Levi Haines, no matter where you put him. So I think as far as the weight class, he'll adjust just fine. Now, it is a different weight class, and there are some guys there that are experienced at the weight class. So, I'm not saying there won't be any adjustment there for Levi throughout the course of the season. And again, I think this is a great test right out of the gate. DeVos kind of just came on the scene in a big way last year for South Dakota State, and really, I think just lost 3 times. I think Shane Griffith, the Stanford and then Michigan product last year, handed him 2 of those 3 losses. So, he is very, very good in his own right, and I think this is a great test right out of the gate. And again, I don't think you get too caught up in the result here. It's more how does Levi look what adjustments can he make from this? And really, same thing from DeVos. I think the one thing about this All-Star Classic, I wish they would just put it on the record. I'm not a huge fan of having it as an exhibition event. I understand why they do it. I understand the thinking behind it. I think these guys are competitors, and I don't think having a loss on the record here this early in the season would be a deterrent for many of these guys. And I think to me it's kind of silly to ask people that are then voting or seating to pretend they didn't see what we're going to see in these matchups on Saturday night. But with all of these guys, you want to get off to a good start, and if you get the win, your coaches and you are going to say, well, this is just a preview of things to come. But if you lose, you say, all right, well, we just are getting underway. We know now some adjustments we need to make. So to me, even if it was on the record, I think it's a worthwhile experience, and I think you win or lose, you can justify the result as leading to a national title here at the end of the year for any of the individuals involved.
I think Haynes is still the better wrestler in this case against DeVos, and like you pointed out, how he came on strong throughout the season. There was really just a matchup weakness there against Griffith. But I feel like there's another matchup weakness here. You do not find, across the entire sport of collegiate wrestling right now, you will not find a better defensive wrestler than Levi Haines. And that's going to be the difference until further notice. I think, again, another lower scoring matchup, right? Who's going to who's going to try to make the first move? Who's going to end up making the first mistake? But it's not going to go down to the wire. I think that's going to happen earlier in the match and then kind of set the tone for the remainder of it. I think Haynes wins convincingly here and keeps DeVos at bay. I could see something maybe along the lines of 7-2, 8-2 even. A clear-cut, decisive victory from Haynes in this one.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see. I won't be surprised if it ends up a little higher scoring than that, and a little closer. DeVos is a pretty slick wrestler in his own right, and both of these guys, I think, wrestle aggressively and are not overly concerned about if they do give up some points, because they figure over 7 minutes they're going to be able to score plenty more takedowns. So I won't be surprised if Levi wins comfortably, but I won't be surprised if this is a closer match and if they do put some points on the board here.
Beau Bartlett, Shayne Van Ness coming up next, and still Tyler Kasak, and talking about Greg Kerkvliet's situation, why he ultimately opted out. But a rematch of the 141-pound NCAA championship. Bartlett and Mendes will certainly not disappoint, and we'll tell you what will happen on the other side of this break. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet just $5. That's all it takes, $5, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more. And it's all on the same page where you place your bets. It's that convenient. It's that simple. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And if we look over at FanDuel.com, Penn State versus Purdue, the game lines are up. Penn State is a hefty favorite. 28.5-point favorite on the spread, minus 8,000 on the money line. Purdue is plus 2,200 on the money line. The total is set at 50.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them right now over at FanDuel.com. And remember, you will get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It is a rematch of the 2024 NCAA Finals at 141 pounds. Beau Bartlett and Jesse Mendes. 2 versus 3. Mendes, #2. Bartlett, #3, respectively. Don't forget about Alirez. Alirez actually taking over the #1 spot at 141. Jesse Mendes got the best of Beau Bartlett after they had the dual meet, the Penn State-Ohio State dual meet, and then won the Big Ten championship and the NCAA championship to follow up. From what I've heard from Beau Bartlett, and you're going to be able to add to this, he describes himself as a free wrestler. He feels like he is free. that he's not weighed down by maybe expectations or thoughts. And this isn't an arrogance. It does feel like this is a newer version of Beau Bartlett personally. Maybe not as the wrestler, but Beau Bartlett the person. Not exactly sure what's going on when it comes to Jesse Mendes' side of the mat. But I like all the things that I'm hearing from Beau Bartlett because we just saw that early season, the media day press conference, and Bartlett was very sure of himself going into this season.
Yeah, I really thought last year you just saw him come into his own, and he's obviously had a great career throughout. But I thought it just really comes together for different guys at different times, and it just felt like he kind of pieced everything together last year. I know he didn't win the title, but he's a trip to the mat away. I mean, he gets in behind Mendes. Mendes does a great move there to pull it out, but. He certainly was capable of winning the title last year. And I do think he is going in with the idea that he wants to enjoy one more go around here in college wrestling. He's going to let it fly, and he's going to let it all out and let the chips fall where they may. And I think when you can wrestle without the pressure that, man, I have to win, or this career wasn't worth it, or I'm not going to be able to define myself the way I want to, or anything like that. I think that can get in the way. And so, I think Bartlett legitimately is just going out there trying to wrestle the very best he can. And I've said it on to several folks here this offseason. To me, Alirez, Mendes, and Bartlett are just three elite wrestlers who all happen to be at the same weight class. And I really think, Zach, on a given day, any of the three are capable of winning the title, and any of the three could finish third. I mean, it's just who is going to hit the move in the moment when it counts most. I think this is a great way for Bartlett to open up the season at home. And again, if you lose it, you say, no big deal, early in the season. Now we know what we need to work on to get where we want to be in March. And obviously, if you win it, you say, yep, we're definitely on track. So I think, you play the psychological game, whatever way you got to play it. I just think this is going to be a great match, a very entertaining match, much like it was when they met last year. And regardless of the outcome, I don't think it assures anything one way or the other if and when they meet again. And listen, they could meet 4 times all total throughout the
realistically. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
You'll have the dual meet, you'll have the Big Ten tournament, and then you'll have the NCAA tournament. So it is very possible that they will meet a total of 4 times. And these matches are close, right? They've gone down to sudden victory or in the matter of the final seconds in regulation here. Jeff, if Beau Bartlett is going to right his wrongs from the last 2 times against Mendes, how do you defeat Jesse Mendes? Because not a lot of people can do that. I think Mendes is one of the future faces overall of USA wrestling. That's how good I think he is. Can Beau Bartlett get back to what he did well in that dual meet? Because what worked for him there versus the other 2 times when he lost last season?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to say and very easy to have as the objective, which is, finish your shots. Mendes is one of the tougher wrestlers in the country at any weight to finish your shots against. And so, I have no doubt that has been a focal point for Beau Bartlett. But focal point or not, it is still really hard to get in, on a clean shot or a quick finish, which I do think is the key to getting a win over Mendes here. So, I think it's just going to be a great match, a lot of fun to watch. And regardless of the outcome, it's one of those matches that, sign me up if they do wrestle 3 more times this year, because I think every one of them is going to be really top-notch wrestling and a lot of fun for fans to see. And I think, again, those 2 with the Alirez, that is a whole lot of talent in one weight class, because I think all 3 of those guys, I agree with you that Mendes has the potential to be, a face of USA wrestling kind of guy. I just happen to think both Alirez and Bartlett could be that type of wrestler as well. And the fact that you have 3 guys like that in one weight class in one season, again, I think it's going to be just a ton of fun for the fans and for the sport itself.
149 pounds, another Penn State wrestler. And five of the matches are going to be Penn State wrestlers. Shayne Van Ness is coming back from a season-ending injury and has recovered well. There are no limitations. Cael Sanderson, his head coach, confirmed that in the media day press conference. And with that being said, Shayne is going into this one as the number 2 ranked wrestler going up against the number 3 ranked Ty Waters out of West Virginia. For those Penn State fans that might recognize, Ty Waters, Tyler Kasak defeated him en route to a 3rd place finish a season ago at 149 pounds. So there is a little bit of familiarity here when it comes to Penn State wrestlers versus Ty Waters. I am intrigued to see, Jeff, how far along Shayne Van Ness is. Is he going to have to shake off some rust? Is he going to be back at full speed? I don't doubt that. Hey, he has no limitations. He's fully healthy. But when the opponent, the person across from you, not the guy that you're sparring with in the mat room, is actually trying to score points on you and not just try to make you better, but they are trying to win, that's when, Shayne Van Ness hasn't had that full experience just yet in quite some time.
Yeah, I am probably more excited to see Shayne Van Ness hopefully go through this season healthy than I am maybe anybody else in the lineup. Luke Lillidahl probably would be right there with them. But I think, and obviously no way to prove this one way or the other, but I am absolutely convinced Shayne Van Ness was on his way to winning the national title last year had he stayed healthy. Wow. He had just taken his game to another level. And I've been up there for a few practices, and I'm telling you, he – if anything, is better than where he was when he left off last season before the injury. So I don't think there's going to be rust to kick off here for Van Ness. And I really think he is a guy that is going to surprise some folks outside, just because I think you tend to forget about somebody when they're injured. It's not that he's sneaking up on anybody. I realize, again, he's ranked 2nd in the country. I am absolutely convinced he will win the national title this year. And I think he is one of those guys. I think he'll be a Hodge Trophy candidate. Let me put it that way. I think he is going to be a dominant force in the Penn State lineup this season.
Well, Ty Waters is the type of opponent that you don't have an opportunity to shake off rust against. There's no adjustment period. You need to be ready to go. Jeff, can you recall that, because you called the matchup when Tyler Kasak ultimately took out Waters to end up getting 3rd place at 149 pounds. What makes Waters so tough as an opponent?
Yeah, he's a long guy, and I think the key for Van Ness is also going to be getting in on the legs, and again, getting good, clean finishes. And then if he does get underneath Waters, getting out quickly, and that, again, much easier said than done. I think Waters is a terrific wrestler. I just think Shayne Van Ness is a little different caliber guy. Now, that's not to say I'm not saying I think Van Ness is just going to blow him out of the water here in this matchup, but I do think Van Ness will find a way to win, and I think he's going to find a way to win just about everything he competes in here for this season and for the rest of his career.
Still to come on our preview of the NWCA All-Star Classic, Tyler Kasak against Peyton Keller, 4 versus 5 at 157 pounds. And then just a brief update, an explanation for why Greg Kerkvliet isn't wrestling against somebody that he could have faced maybe 4 times this season in a Nick Feldman. We'll tell you all about it on the other side of this break. And today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. You got to download the Gametime app because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier than before. Gametime Picks filters out all the fluff. to show you only incredible deals on incredible seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. And let's look at Gametime. So you can either go to the Gametime app or go to gametime.co. That's gametime.co. And Penn State Wrestling versus Drexel tickets are available in Rec Hall. And all of the best deals are sorted right for me. There's a super deal for Rec Hall tickets, all in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. Section N1L, row 9, all in pricing, $47 for each ticket if you're just looking for the lowest price on Gametime. Section W3U, row E, $25 per ticket. Again, that is all in pricing with the fees already included. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Tyler Kasak, Peyton Keller out of Ohio. This is an intriguing matchup because Tyler Kasak was supposed to be more or less the heir apparent to Beau Bartlett at 141, take the red shirt, but then Shayne Van Ness has the injury. Hey, let's move him up to 149, see what he can do. Oh, wow. He finishes at third place in a weight class that he wasn't even supposed to be in for that respective true freshman season. And now he's up to 157. So it's very similar to Levi Haines in the fact that he started at 141 and moved up not one weight class, but two weight classes, and he's here at 157. And then there's an alternate discussion, which we will talk about further, if Kasak is the actual answer at 157 for this Penn State wrestling starting lineup. But you're going to have to check out the adjacent episode for that. Tyler Kasak against Peyton Keller. I mean, I like what I saw out of Kasak, especially because he grew up so fast in that NCAA tournament. You kept saying it all along. We're waiting on Kasak. Kasak is right there. We've seen it all. It's a matter of happening. And I'm saying, I believe you, Jeff. You go to practice. You see all these things. You get to talk to the wrestlers and the coaches. But he hadn't shown it in the present. But you were well out in front of the Tyler Kasak breakout party before it actually happened last March.
Well, and again, part of it is just the competitive fire that he has and the energy he brings. And I think, he's one of those guys that really does learn. I mean, you'd like all of your kids to do that, and I think Penn State probably does. But he really does learn a lot, win or lose in a match. But certainly when he loses, he's one of those guys that goes back, really looks at it, assesses his game and what he needs to work on to take that next step. And I do think he's taken another step here with his game from the end of last season. And I don't think the weight jump is an issue at all. He is a legit 157 pounder and a solid 57 pounder at that. And yeah, I do think this matchup favors Kasak going in. Again, I think he's jumped levels, and I think he's going to show that here in this bout. And where I think he is going to be markedly better than he was a year ago, and not that he was bad a year ago with his top game, but I think that's an area that's going to take a noticeable leap forward for Tyler Kasak here in the upcoming season.
Peyton Keller as an opponent, Jeff, out of the University of Ohio, so most people are going to think, oh, well, it's a smaller school, so Kasak should have no problems here. But there's a reason that Keller is ranked 5th in the preseason. Yeah,
Keller is a really good kid and took 5th, I think, last year, right at the NCAA tournament. And he's a guy that was I think sometimes you have guys that just develop a little bit later. And he was very good throughout high school and then won the Ohio State title his senior year. But he was not standing out as one of the elite kids, just a really, really good kid. And I think Ohio obviously is very grateful to have him. And I think,
right.
He has a chance to place higher on the podium this year than he did a year ago. And it's a great test out of the gate, again, for Tyler Kasak. I think Kasak at home here, I guess I'm expecting him to just have enough fire to figure out a way to win this when it gets to be crunch time. But this is a really good test for his opening bout at this 157-pound weight class.
Unfortunately, there isn't a heavyweight matchup for us to preview from the Penn State perspective as Greg Kerkvliet ultimately opted out. But I think it's important just to discuss it here that Kerkvliet is not injured. He's not hurt. According to Kale in the media day press conference, that there was a family function or something that was family related that caused Greg to opt out of it, but there are no issues in that Greg is full 110%, because that was the concern. Everyone said, "Oh, what's wrong with Greg? He's fine."
Yeah, it's scheduling conflict, and listen, I think with the news of Gable Stevenson's return this season, obviously the heavyweight class becomes a little more intriguing here, and Greg Kerkvliet's path, obviously, to another NCAA title gets a little more difficult. But I think it's going to be fun to see how that all plays out. And yeah, Greg is ready and raring to go, and again, I think is on track to make a real run here at Gable Stevenson at the end of the year.
It will be exciting, and we're going to have another episode adjacent to that to discuss Penn State wrestling and the full 2024-25 preview, where we will answer some of those debates, some of those burning questions about the team and how they will finish at the end of the day. This is going to conclude our NWCA All-Star Classic preview this Saturday, November 16th in Penn State's Rec Hall, 7 p.m. Jeff, will you be broadcasting this?
Yes, the NWCA All-Star Meet will actually have on the radio station I'm on in the morning. So Sports Radio 98.7 The Fox will have the All-Star match, and then Go PSU Sports and radio affiliates will have the dual meet season and the tournaments. But we're very excited that we get the opportunity to broadcast this on our little standalone station here at 98.7 The Fox.
So there you have it. You can listen to Jeff's call of this on 98.7 The Fox in State College or at gopsusports.com. And just for anybody that's curious, here is the full lineup as we wrap it up here. It's going to start with, now there are some other important matches that are going to be going through here, but the end for the Division I NCAA men's wrestling, 197 Stephen Little of Little Rock. Stephen Little of Little Rock against Zach Braunagel of Illinois. At heavyweight, Nick Feldman of Ohio State against Tay Gaudiali of Campbell. 125, Jor Volk of Wyoming against Tanner Jordan of South Dakota State. 133, Nazir Bailey against Lucas Bird of Illinois. 141, Mendes versus Bartlett. 149, Van Ness versus Waters. 157, Kasak versus Keller. 165, Hunter Garvin of Stanford versus Peyton Hall of West Virginia. 174, Haynes versus DeVos, and 184 to wrap it all up. Oh, do we think, was that planned? That had to be planned. Starocci versus Kisen to finish things off in Rec Hall. Again, 7 p.m. Eastern Time at Penn State's Rec Hall. Jeff will have the call of it on 98.7 The Fox in State College. Jeff, thanks so much for the time, and can't wait to talk some more about Penn State wrestling here very soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Zach.
And again, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. I really appreciate it. And if you appreciate the wrestling coverage, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, because we are going to be talking about Penn State wrestling all season long in depth. I want to know your thoughts down in the comments section. If you have any predictions for the NWCA All-Star Classic or the Penn State wrestling season, let me know your thoughts down below. And for your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On Big Ten. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, with host Craig Sheeman as he talks about everything Big Ten related, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, the newcomers from the Pac-12, all of it, anything that's Big Ten related, he is talking about it, and that's why it's called Locked On Big Ten. It's available on YouTube, as I've mentioned, and wherever you get your podcasts, and it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.